Cristo Flanto, the man who stole Mars. Expanded Chapter 1, The Doorman's Secret. Cristo Flanto was the kind of man no one noticed. For years, he had worked as a doorman at the Grand Solaris Hotel, standing at the entrance in his crisp, navy blue uniform, greeting guests with a polite nod, opening doors with a well-practiced ease. People passed by him daily, businessmen, celebrities, politicians, but none of them ever really saw him. And that was exactly what he wanted. While they ignored him, he was listening, watching, studying. The whole city was talking about the upcoming Mars mission, a project that promised to change humanity forever. The world's top scientists, astronauts, and billionaires were working together to build the first permanent colony on the red planet. But Cristo didn't see Mars as a scientific achievement. He saw an opportunity. A place untouched by governments. A world free from laws, from control. A planet that could belong to him, if he played his cards right. But there was one problem. Getting to Mars wasn't cheap. A single seat on the mission cost billions. Cristo had no wealth, no connections, and no formal education. Yet none of that mattered. Because Cristo wasn't going to buy his way onto the mission. He was going to steal it. Chapter 2, The Plan Begins. Cristo had spent years crafting his plan, waiting for the perfect moment. And that moment had finally arrived. The Mars mission was scheduled to launch in just over a year. That gave him exactly 12 months to secure enough money to infiltrate the program. He couldn't just walk in, he needed a new identity, forged documents, and the resources to make himself indispensable to the mission. There was only one way to get that kind of money: crime. But not just any crime. A heist. Not a small-time robbery. Not a bank stick-up with a gun and a mask. He needed to think bigger. And that's when he remembered his stepfather's old allies. Years ago, Cristo's stepfather had been one of the city's most notorious criminals. A mastermind of deception, theft, and smuggling. Cristo had learned everything from him: how to move unseen, how to manipulate people, how to make others take the fall for his crimes. But Cristo had always been careful. He had never used those skills. Until now. He reached out to his stepfather's old associates. A crew of professional thieves, smugglers, and hackers. They had been quiet for years, hiding from the law. But Cristo had something they couldn't resist. A job that would make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. Chapter 3, Assembling the Crew. The first person Cristo met with was Marco Venz, a former bank robber who had gone underground after a failed job 6 years ago. He was ruthless, but he knew how to crack safes and disable security systems. Next was Eliza Rayner, an expert hacker who had spent most of her life breaking into government databases. Cristo had tracked her down through an old contact. She was skeptical at first, but the promise of millions convinced her. Then there was Dante Greaves, a getaway driver with a record longer than a novel. Cristo needed someone who could disappear in an instant, and Dante was the best. Lastly, he recruited Victor Hale, a weapons specialist and ex-mercenary. Cristo didn't expect the heist to turn violent, but if things went wrong, he needed muscle on his side. With his team assembled, the next step was choosing their target. They couldn't rob a bank. That was too obvious. Too risky. Instead, they would steal something far more valuable: a shipment of priceless artifacts and gold, set to be transferred to a high-security vault in the city's financial district. The shipment was worth hundreds of millions. Enough to buy them all new identities. Enough to fund Cristo's way to Mars. All they had to do was take it. Chapter 4, The Fake Police Escape Plan. The hardest part of the heist wasn't stealing the treasure. It was getting away with it. Cristo's plan was simple. 1. The crew would hijack the armored truck carrying the treasure. 2. They would drive it to a fake police checkpoint, one set up by Cristo himself. 3. When the real cops arrived, they would return the stolen goods, but to a police car driven by Cristo. It was a perfect deception. The police would think Cristo's plan was simple. 1. The crew would hijack. The police would think they had recovered the stolen goods, while in reality, Cristo would be driving away with all of it. No alarms. No chases. No suspicion. At least, that was the plan. But no plan ever goes perfectly. And Cristo knew that better than anyone. Dash dash dash. Chapter 5. The heist begins. The night of the heist arrived. The crew moved like shadows through the city, each taking their positions. Eliza hacked into the traffic cameras, disabling surveillance along the transport route. Dante waited in a stolen car nearby, engine running, ready for a quick getaway. Victor and Marco were dressed as security guards, waiting at the perfect intersection. And Cristo. He was already in his police disguise, ready to play his part. The armored truck approached. The crew moved in. Everything was going smoothly. Until a garbage man found something he wasn't supposed to. Dash dash dash. Chapter 6. The mask that changed everything. In the alleyway behind them, a garbage man on his night shift picked up a discarded bag. Inside it was a police mask. Cristo had carelessly left it behind while changing into his disguise. The garbage man, confused, turned it over in his hands. Then, he looked up, just in time to see the cops loading treasure into a police car. His eyes went wide, and he reached for his phone. The real police were about to get a call. Cristo's perfect heist was suddenly on the brink of disaster. Dash dash dash. Chapter 7. The chase begins. Cristo saw the garbage man out of the corner of his eye. A flicker of movement. A shadow shifting in the alleyway. Then, his hands moving toward his pocket. A phone. Cristo's pulse surged. The plan was airtight, meticulously crafted over months. But a single oversight, a single misplaced mask, could bring it all down in seconds. He couldn't let that call go through. Cristo moved before thinking. He sprinted toward the garbage man, shoving past crates and scattered trash. The man barely had time to react before Cristo's hand closed around his wrist. "What are you doing?" Cristo hissed, forcing a smile to keep up the illusion. "This is official police business." The garbage man's face twisted in confusion, eyes darting from Cristo's uniform to the stolen police car behind him. His finger hovered over the dial button. Cristo gripped his wrist tighter. The garbage man's voice wavered. "That mask, I saw." Cristo didn't give him a chance to finish. In a split-second decision, he yanked the phone out of the man's hands and smashed it against the brick wall. The device shattered, pieces scattering onto the concrete. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, "Help! Help!" Quote. Cristo silenced him with a swift blow to the temple. The garbage man crumpled, unconscious. But Cristo knew this was far from over. Dash dash dash. Chapter 8. The getaway. "Cristo, what was that?" Voice crackled through the earpiece. Cristo turned away from the unconscious garbage man, wiping sweat from his brow. "We've got a problem. Someone saw me." "Are they dead?" Victor asked bluntly. "No. But they will talk if they wake up." Cristo exhaled sharply, thinking fast. "We need to get out of here. Now." Dante's voice came through next. "I see flashing lights, 2 cop cars heading this way." Cristo cursed. The garbage man hadn't made the call, but someone must have noticed the stolen armored truck in the middle of the street. He had seconds to decide. Plan A was ruined. Time for Plan B. "Change of route," Cristo commanded. "Marco, drive the truck into the tunnel entrance near 5th. Eliza, disable traffic cams on that road, buy us some time." "And what about you?" Marco asked. Cristo was already moving. "I'm taking the police car. Meet me at the scrapyard." He slid into the driver's seat of the stolen cop car, gripping the wheel tight. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Cristo floored the gas pedal. He had to disappear, fast. Dash dash dash. Chapter 9. The Scrapyard Exchange. Cristo arrived at the scrapyard first. The towering piles of rusted metal and discarded machinery made for perfect cover. The air smelled of oil and decay, the distant sound of metal crunching under heavy machinery filling the night. Dante pulled up moments later in the getaway car. Then Marco and Victor arrived with the stolen truck. They worked quickly, unloading crates of stolen artifacts, gold bars, rare jewels, priceless paintings. Cristo had already arranged for a buyer. The scrapyard owner, an old associate of his stepfather's, was waiting in the shadows. You got what I asked for? Cristo asked. The old man smirked, pulling out a thick briefcase. He popped it open, revealing stacks of cash. As promised. Clean bills. No serial numbers. Cristo nodded. Then we're done here. But before he could turn away, the scrapyard owner's smile faded. You sure about that? He asked. Because the cops are crawling the streets. Someone's looking for you. Cristo's jaw clenched. They weren't in the clear yet. Dash dash dash. Chapter 10. Selling the lie. The next morning, Cristo walked into work at the Grand Solaris Hotel like nothing had happened. His uniform was spotless. His posture, perfect. He greeted guests with the same polite nod he always did. No one suspected a thing. But behind his calm exterior, his mind raced. The city was on high alert after the heist. The news was flooded with coverage of the stolen artifacts. The police were already investigating. He needed to lay low. For now. But he also needed to move fast. The next phase of his plan was already in motion. He had enough money now. Enough to buy a new identity, infiltrate the Mars mission, and take his place among the colonists. It was time to get to work. Dash dash.